Hi. Today we're going to be talking about some Nickelodeon people. Now, what do you think of when you think of Nickelodeon? If you're older, you might think of actual quality, actual goodness, back in the days of, maybe like Rugrats or old SpongeBob, Danny Phantom, something like that. Or maybe even way back in the really old days with like All That or Doug or something like that. Or you might think modern day. I haven't really been keeping up with Nickelodeon as of late, but I do know that one of their shows, The Loud House, is actually pretty good. Haven't seen much of it, but I have heard it's pretty good, so I guess they have that going for them. But really what I wanted to talk about here is some people who created shows for Nickelodeon. Now, these three people are probably the three biggest contributors to Nickelodeon, as two of them created Nickelodeon's two longest running and successful shows, and the third one was a huge crutch of the network for decades. These three men, of course, are Steven Hillenburg, Butch Hartman, and Dan Schneider. Now, all three of them are no longer with Nickelodeon, at least as far as I can tell, for one reason or another. So, first, let's start off with the easiest one to talk about, Steven Hillenburg. Why is he the easiest to talk about? Really because there's the least to say. His story is probably the most cut and dry. So, he was a marine biologist who just kind of created a TV show for fun one day, and it blew up, Would he have ever expected that his TV show turned into this cult phenomenon that would last 2 decades and inspire an entire generation? No. He probably had no idea that it would turn out to be as amazing as it did. Because, he was a marine biologist originally, His passion was for the ocean, not for, making TV shows. And, his passion wasn't, the ocean, period, but, the ocean and all the aquatic life within it. But he was never, a TV show person before that. And he was, a very private and humble man, and I have a lot of respect for him. He seemed like a really good guy, though I never knew him personally, so I can't confirm that. And he stepped down, of course, after the first movie was created, because that's when he wanted the show to end. But, of course, Nickelodeon forced it to go on, because it was, their breadwinner at the time, and was for years after that, even after it took a huge dip in quality. And just about a year and a half ago, Steven Hillenburg unfortunately came down with ALS and passed away. It was very unfortunate, and the fact that he, didn't even make it past 60, and he just seemed like a really good guy. So it was very, very sad and unexpected to see him go like this. Now, Steven Hillenburg himself was practically an angel. But Nickelodeon, as most of you may be aware, kind of seems to be potentially stabbing him in the back. As only a couple months after he passed away, and I think it was November of 2018, maybe October, Nickelodeon announced that they would be doing some certain experiments with SpongeBob, certain SpongeBob spin-offs, and I don't even remember what else. So it leads me to believe that when Steven Hillenburg passed away, Nickelodeon was like, hey, wait a minute, the creator of this franchise is now gone, so we can pretty much do whatever we want with it, because we now have full reins over everything. Sure, they probably could have done that while Hillenburg was still alive, but he probably would have fought and kicked to no end, because, as most of you are probably aware, he had set rules and limits for what he wanted his show SpongeBob to be and not to be. Things like SpongeBob can't get his license, he can't fall in love, stuff like that. There were many others, I think one of which he never wanted there to be a spin-off or anything. And Nickelodeon just really seems to be disrespecting his wishes and what he wanted. They're basically just taking his will, tearing it up, and pissing on it. And not much has really happened as of late. It's been well over a year since he's passed, and from what I can tell, nothing too much has happened, but still, it's kind of at an interesting point, and I mean, again, I haven't been watching Nickelodeon much lately, so maybe they have done something, but I mean, honestly, if Hillenburg is rolling over in his grave, I'm surprised he hasn't flipped over the entire Pacific Ocean by now, because really, it's just like, they could just really take SpongeBob and just blow it. I mean, it's already been blown out of proportion, but they could blow it even further out of proportion to the point where Steven Hillenburg just wouldn't want it that way. So that's just, oh man. Anyways, so next victim, or creator rather, victim of me talking about them, that is, we have Butch Hartman. Now, Mr. Butch Hartman here, he created the Fairly Odd Parents, as you all know. He also created Danny Phantom, Tough Puppy, and that other one that I can never remember. I'm not even going to try and remember the name of it. However, on top of creating these 4 TV shows, he also claims he created your childhood. Yeah, isn't that lovely? So, Butch Hartman recently, I think this was summer of 2018, maybe 17, though I don't really know, he, I think, left Nickelodeon and started his own entertainment platform called Oaxis. And he had like a GoFundMe to, raise money to get it started, even though I'm sure he has a boatload of money from the shows he's created, working with Nick all those years. And what exactly he had planned for this entertainment platform, nobody really knew. And at the time, nobody really knew whether he was being sleazy or just being a moron. Later, it was revealed he was pretty much being a sleazy prick, in that I still don't really know what he wanted to do. Did he want to create like an entertainment platform that would force Christianity onto the youth? Or did he just... I don't really know. Maybe he just never wanted to have a failure. He wanted everything he did to be a success, because he collected all this money. I'm pretty sure he reached one of his goals to create Oaxis Entertainment. And he never really did anything with that money. And all the loyal fans who donated to him, they never really got to see their money that they donated him put to good use. And I can imagine that was really disappointing for them to see. And on top of that craziness, Butch Hartman, I mean, he really seems to be an arrogant dick. He just really seems to be. Because, I mean, he's just always talking about, like, how great he is, and, like, Butch, I created your childhood, Hartman. Just, oh, boy. Because, to go on a quick tangent about that, first of all, my childhood isn't created just by the media that I absorbed. And even if it was, really the only one of those shows that I watched avidly was The Fairly Odd Parents. Tough Puppy and Danny Phantom I watched on and off, even though Tough Puppy really wasn't that great. Danny Phantom was, I just never really got into it that much. Really, the only show I watched avidly was The Fairly Odd Parents. And yes, while I do love that show, especially some of the characters like Jorgen von Strangle and Mr. Crocker, it's not like that created my childhood. If anything, Shigeru Miyamoto is the one who created my childhood with Mario and Zelda, but that's beside the point. So, Butch Hartman, you probably all know, he also has a YouTube channel where he puts in clickbaity videos and just draws and talks about random bullcrap. Kind of like I am right now, whatever. So, really, what's going on with Butch Hartman right now, I don't really know. He's probably still pushing to get Oaxis Entertainment, off the ground, and what he's going to do with it, I have no idea. Whether he just ran out with all the money that got collected and spent it on booze, I really don't know. I mean, he just really seems like a sleazy guy. I never really thought about it that much before Oaxis happened. But, I mean, yeah, it's just interesting the way the world works sometimes, because it just kind of, because he just, I don't know, he just seems like he just seems like he's trying to scam people. He's just trying to scam people out of their money. What he's going to do with this Oaxis Entertainment platform, I don't even know. Like, if he's trying to rival the likes of Netflix and Hulu in order to create a successful entertainment platform that can make him even more money, that could very well be the case. And he wants to make it, family-friendly, kid-friendly, which, I mean, pretty much goes back to, the whole idea of him trying to force, Christian values onto people. And with him, creating this network, yes, it's just a mess. But as one last point here, with him creating this network, he's really just, I mean, you probably are going to see the reference in this immediately, but he's kind of just like, it seems today that all you see is violence in movies and sex on TV. But where are those good old-fashioned Christian values on which we used to rely? Well, luckily there's me, Butch Hartman. I am a man who positively can do all the things that make us laugh and cry. I mean, I am such a great family guy. Yeah, that's pretty much what he's been spouting, on top of all the other lies, bullshit, and rando gibberish, to just get this O-Axis thing created. And does he really want to try and unite the family, get this sort of thing out? I don't know. Maybe he's trying to promote his religion, Christianity, or maybe he's just trying to get more money. He's just trying to break it big, inflate his ego, and make more money. Honestly, that's what I think would be the case. Alright, so yeah, that's really all I can think of saying about him right now. So, person number 3, we have Mr. Potato Man Daniel Schneider. So, Dan Schneider has been a huge crutch of Nickelodeon from the 1990s, maybe even early 2000s, all the way up until about a year or two ago. He created pretty much every live-action show Nickelodeon has ever seen. Kenan and Kel, The Amanda Show, Drake and Josh, Ned's Declassified, Big Time Rush, iCarly, Victorious, Sam and Cat, The Thundermans, Game Shakers, and I don't even know what else anymore. I'm sure there's other ones that I'm forgetting, but those are the only ones I can think of off the top of my head. And that was 10 of them, so that's still quite a lot. And you might think, 10 shows, that's a lot of shows for one man to create. And you're right. Nickelodeon really milked him for all he was worth, and then some. And his older sitcoms were very good. One of my personal favorites being Drake and Josh and Ned's Declassified. Those two were really good. And I know a lot of the other ones, Kenan and Kel, I mean, that one was before my time, but I've heard that one was very good. I've seen a few episodes of The Amanda Show here and there. I think he created that one. I've seen a few episodes of Zoe 101. I think that was one of his other ones. So that seems pretty good too. But as most of you are probably aware, iCarly that's another one I watched pretty avidly. And in the later seasons, it was more of a guilty pleasure than like an actual enjoyment of mine. iCarly was basically the tipping point where his shows went from good to awful. Victorious was kind of in that camp too. However, that one really, in my opinion, fared out to middle of the road. That one had some good episodes, it had some boring episodes, but it didn't really have anything like top tier like iCarly did, and it didn't really have anything like extremely rancid like iCarly did in its later seasons with like, certain things that I could always get into later. And then, when they came out on the other side with things like Sam and Cat and Game Shakers and God knows what else there was the Haunted Hathaways, the Thundermans. I think those were created by him. There was also that show House of Anubis. I don't think that was created by him. It may have been, but I don't really remember. I never really watched any of those shows. There's just names that I know from the commercials on Nickelodeon, just hearing other people talk about it before. So he just created so many shows. And of course, one of the main reasons that they got bad as the years went on is because one man and one creative team, his Schneider's Bakery team or whatever you call it, they can only have so many ideas. One team and one person can only have so many ideas. So if he's going to make like a baker's dozen, get the joke, a baker's dozen shows over the span of only like 15 years, 20 years, whatever, odds are he's going to run out of ideas. He's not going to, just keep coming up with just fresh idea, fresh idea, fresh idea, fresh idea. He's going to start, reusing ideas, and maybe without even realizing it, like he might think like, oh, what could I do? Oh, I know, Sam and Cat could do this thing. And it's like the exact same thing that Drake and Josh did, 10 years previously. So, of course, plots are going to get rehashed. Certain jokes and elements are going to get reused more than once, as a matter of fact, reused to the point where they're dead. And that was the main reason for why his shows went downhill. But the really interesting thing starts with when Nickelodeon finally broke it off with him, despite him pretty much being their live-action life support for the better part of 10 years. And it came to light that he potentially had temper issues, and he potentially had some sexual abuse and sexual affairs with the female actresses he was working with. And I mean, there was a lot of them, in shows like iCarly and Victorious and some other ones. There's a lot of younger female actresses he's working with: Miranda Cosgrove, Jeanette McCurdy, Ariana Grande, Victoria Justice, and many others. So for him to, be right up there along with all of these young female actors who were all decently attractive, it's like the temptation must have been real for this guy. I mean, in a way, I don't really blame him. I'm not defending what he did in any way. Maybe saying I don't blame him is a wrong way of putting it. I understand why he may have had some of those tendencies, but at the same time, that in no way excuses what he did, if it even happened to begin with. Though the most likely thing is, and I don't want to judge, but the man clearly has a foot fetish. He loves feet. There are so many gags related to feet throughout the shows. To name a few, there was the episode of iCarly where the mean doorman and Freddie's mom were dating, and there was a scene in that episode where Carly and Sam were shooting bow and arrows at a foot. There was another iCarly episode where Carly and Sam painted faces of people on all their toes on their feet. There was the Drake and Josh episode where Josh dropped a barbell on his foot and got that big foot injury. Now, they didn't really show his foot too much in that episode, but there was that one scene where they had the close-up on it, so there's that. And I'm sure there's plenty of other examples that I just can't think of at the moment, but he definitely seems to have a foot fetish. Especially with that, I think there was that video of Ariana Grande sucking her feet while sitting on a bed. Just, oh boy. So for that, they let Dan Schneider go. Foot fetish, possible sexual misconduct, and possible temper issues. Of course, having a bad temper isn't illegal, but it could easily cause people to not like you. Now, whether any of the sexual harassment allegations are true or not, I could see it being true, again, with all the young female actresses. But yeah, it seems a little interesting. And what he's going on to next, I don't really know, because these allegations and the fact that Nickelodeon burned him out and then basically shattered him, essentially. Or not really shattered him, but they just ran him into the ground so much. If I was used that much by one single network, I just don't know if I could have the will to keep creating anymore, because I just be completely burned out. Though it could be a different story for him, because I'm not him, I wouldn't know. So, where he's going to go next, I don't know, because again, all those allegations could potentially stunt his growth as a creator and not allow him to move on to something bigger and better. So, what the future's going to hold for Dan Schneider, I don't know. I mean, he doesn't seem like a bad guy, definitely not an egotistical maniac like Butch Hartman, though I could be wrong. Again, I know none of these people personally, so I can't confirm anything. So, where Dan Schneider's headed off, I don't really know. Butch Hartman, same thing, I don't really know. Hopefully not to scamming more people. And hopefully Dan Schneider can enjoy his foot fetish somewhere where it won't disturb anybody. And Stephen Hillenburg, rest in peace. And may Nickelodeon not disrespect your wonderful legacy. Alrighty, so Wow. This video went on a lot longer than I thought it would, and my throat is killing me now from talking this long, so... Alright, that's just about all I have to say. So, thank you for watching another one of my Let's Talk videos, and I will see you next time.